and I know what looting is all about. And let me tell you something: when that goes down, there ain't no 3 days worth of food in that supermarket. So one of the things that I did, seeing that things were going down, is I moved out of the population center and made sure I had postured myself in a position where not only am I away from things, but that I have a piece of property that is defensible in the event that things do go that way. Now, if things remain status quo, hey, I got a nice piece of land and everything's hunky-dory. Now, I know everybody can't do that, but what you should do is start to understand your surroundings. Know your neighbors, who you can trust, who you can't trust, because really, even in an everyday life scenario, trust is a very hard commodity to find. It's precious, but even more so in a disaster situation or a situation where you may have starving people around you. Your trust is really going to be strained, and it's very important, if you cannot get out of there, that you make these relationships now and you network while you can. And Griff, what would you do if you were just starting out now and you had very limited resources? What would you do to start preparing yourself?
If I lived in Louisiana, I probably would go out and price a. I can hear my voice coming back at me, echoing. It's a little distracting. I would purchase an RV if I lived in Louisiana. I would stock it and head north and get out of there. I think if the people stay there as the situation progresses, I think it'll get worse and worse, and soon we will see full-blown sickness and disaster occurring down there. When the people exit all at one time, that's going to create more death and more misery. The people are going to run out of money, gasoline, and food on the road, and you have 20, 30, 40 million people in harm's way down there. I cannot imagine some of the scenarios that are possible. It's all pretty much a function of money. I think you're limited as Obama is going to raise taxes, as hyperinflation hits our commodities, food becomes scarce. It's going to get tighter and tighter and tighter. People should be moving now, today, right now. It's going to be more difficult next week and next month and 3 and 4 months from now. It'll eventually be tight as a noose around your neck, and you won't be able to move. John?
Dr. Waterman, what do you think?
I think he's right on the money. I think people ought to be preparing for their family, themselves, getting out of harm's way, moving, leave it behind if you have to, start all over, get you prepared. And that's one of the reasons we started our food program of pay-as-you-go. Just pay as you go, do what you can. You'll be surprised how it starts getting in. You want to get food that you eat and eat food that you get. And so, with that kind of mentality, we're not talking about going to Sam's Club and getting a bunch of red beans. We're not talking about that. We're talking about food you eat. Eggs, corn, carrots, green beans, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, get things that you eat on a regular basis. And the nice thing about it is, if something ever happens, the closer we get to that 30 and 40-day point, that's when people have run out of food and they're now desperately got to have it or die, is when it's going to be the most dangerous. That first 3 days is as bad as you've seen it before, could be really disastrous. But when it gets down to where people know they're going to have to fight or die, it gets really bad. Now, I've been in a revolution before in a foreign country, and it's pretty dangerous. Like you say, Joe, it gets really bad. So the thing you want to do is just get you enough food, and if you get out of the major part of the problem, it'll be past when everybody runs out of food. They'll be dying. Not that you want that to happen. We want everybody prepared, But we certainly have to just take care of ourselves. You have to focus on what our responsibility as family leaders, family members, and people in our community should be doing locally and in the families first. So take care of yourself, then you won't be a burden on the rest of the system, and you can sit back and let all the authorities worry about everybody else. Just don't let them know you've got it, but make sure you get it.
If we have a monetary collapse, we won't have authorities. We won't have police or military. John, do you believe it is probable that in your opinion, that the United States could turn into Jericho, the movie?
Oh, boy. You know, it's real interesting because I didn't even know Jericho existed, and I don't want to get into it. I did have this very interesting experience that I had an opportunity to write down what I thought was going to be a certain scenario, and it came from the fact, I won't get into it, but I'll just say this. When I saw, about a week ago, I saw the entire series of Jericho all at once. And I every day I went back to seeing it. I mean, I saw 2 and 3 hours at a time. And I absolutely was flabbergasted how realistic and how I think that probably could be very predictive of the situations that we have. And it's very classic, too, Griff, because we're talking about people that have food versus the people that had that other little town had the manufacturing plant, and they were making bullets, and the others was making butter, so to speak. So it's always the bullets and butter crowd, and you've got to come to a balance with that. But I'll tell you what, you don't see the food crowd wanting to go after the bullet guys. It's the bullet guys wanting your food. And so, that was a reality. It was absolutely so real. It was unbelievable. Now, there were a lot of things about that, just simple things could have fixed when people got sick. Just simple preparation could have taken care of. So, but it is very, very real. And Griff, I would have to say, if somebody wants to see what it's going to be like, they just watch the Jericho series, which mysteriously stopped after being so successful.
I well remember our recent conversation. I knew your answer before I tricked you with the question, but I did it with a smile on my face. I think
he knows the story I have, but I didn't want to get into his long one.
it's a heck of a story, Joe, and listeners. I believe that the Jericho scenario is very probable as I'm viewing the world and the United States and what's happening. I think it's probable. I'm not optimistic about the near future, and I'm still putting emphasis on November. Something is coming down in November. So,
well, what do you think? And I'm going to pose this to all you guys. We've seen a lot of movies, shows. History Channel runs it, Discovery Channel runs it, TLC with it. Doomsday, 2012, whatever it is, Jericho, you name it. You got to think that it makes me ask the question, first of all, where are they getting this information from? And secondly, what is the purpose behind all of this push towards this thought? It's almost like they're making it a reality or trying to make it a reality in everybody's mind. What do you think the purpose is to all this? Go ahead, Griff.
Well, that's a heck of a good question, Joe. I don't know that I know the answer to that. It does seem like the movie makers know something we don't know, and they're always seem to be a step or two ahead of us. It would be difficult for them to make that up as they do. I don't have a good answer to that.
What about you, Dr. Waterman? What do you think?
I agree. It's a good question. On my blog, and I didn't give my blog, it's still up, and it has those audio files I'm going to talk about. They do seem to have this propensity to tell you ahead of time what's going to happen. Now, I have heard this, that they have some kind of code or cultic requirement to tell the world what they're going to do before they do it. I don't believe it's a code. I don't believe it's anything near so high and noble-minded or any kind of ethical behavior on their part that requires them even occultically to announce it. Here's what I think it is. I think many of these people that give us these programs are connected with the exact same groups of people that put them in power in the media. And what they're doing is they're giving them the script of real scenarios that they know about and telling them, look, they just can't, what they're doing is they're taking advantage of those scenarios to make a story that it will be sensational and sellable, but they're kind of like, do you remember that show on television? I think it was Babylon 5 or something, where the Ferengi were. These guys couldn't resist money. The guys with the big nose and big ears on that sci-fi series, the Ferengi were, Star Trek. They never could resist the money, the gold, and I think that's what it is. They can't resist making money when they hear a good story, and so their plots, they come from real scenarios that they know about, because the people that put them in the media world to make all this money actually are part of the crew or groups that are planning all this nefarious stuff, and so they give them the info. They put it out as a sci-fi or a novel thing, and it's a lot of basic information. And to kind of prove that, if you'll go to my blog, which is simplyyourhealth.wordpress.com, you will get a recording there of what was the last man on the planet, and it was I Am Legend, and it's under a legend, and it tells in there that they were going to release a virus, and it was being told by a lady that was Hispanic, and it was going to start in Mexico, and it was to help the whole world, and that was the vaccines. And it went on telling these stories, and it even tells when this thing is going to, how long it's going to continue until it's fixed, which was 2012. It's real interesting recordings, and the same occurred, of course, I'm sure your listeners have heard the movie Patriot with Bill Gibson, when he was hanging up his rocking chair, he said 9 pounds, 11 ounces, and he sat in it, and then he said after it broke and fell with him in it, because they broke on him, he says, all fell down twice. These coded messages are because they already know what's going to go on, and they just make money from it. Like I said, everything they do to take advantage of it in any way, any capacity that they can, whether it's to make movies, whether it's to move forward with their new laws, and all their other nefarious agendas that they have going. And it's all against our freedoms, every bit of it, all of it.
It most certainly is that. I couldn't agree with you more. And like I said, the only thing that fascinates me is just the amount of pre-programming that we see, and it's almost like I don't know if it's toying with people, or if it's do they truly care, and they're just saying, hell, let's subliminally tell them what's going on. I mean, personally, I feel that we're at a precipice here, and I mean, take a look at we're just talking, like you said, it's a multifaceted agenda. The economy is collapsing. It's most certainly not where they say it is or where they hype it up to be. We have the war going on in Afghanistan, the stuff going on in Iraq, and the tensions with Iran, the Gulf situation, and now a new twist with that. I never took into consideration of morphing microbes and things like that. So that puts a whole new twist into things. And I mean, we can go on and on. Plus, we have the whole celestial situation that's going on. So we have all of these things that are taking place, and any one of them any one of them is a showstopper.